Hey, welcome, thanks for stopping by. It's time to learn with our friend Clive. So grab your brush, have a great time. And don't forget to click subscribe. Visit Clive5R.
Hello and thank you for taking up my invitation to join me in the studio today. As you could see by the introduction, we're doing this fantastic painting. Now, I'm just doing a little bit of line work on that, so just to give myself some way to go. So before we proceed with the painting, let's have a look at the palette very quickly. As you can see, I've got my palette set out in the normal way. I've got some medium mix, some flow improver, I got some retard, I got some liquid clear. They're all in these little metal bowls. And I've got a range of brushes from blenders. I've got a couple of blenders. I got a few different short flats. I've got a couple of filberts there. Whoops. I got a couple of filberts, some smaller ones. I got a little angled shader, and I have got a detail brush, and that's all the brushes I'm going to be using. I'm trying to standardize my brushes, yes, so there we are, but that's all in the descriptions. So without further ado, let's have a look at what we're going to do today. So just tightening up a few little areas here and there. There we are, like that. I don't know. My wife Jane said, I want a painting, she said, I want a painting for the living room, and I want it to have flowers and stuff in it. I'm thinking, but I'm not a floral artist, I don't like flowers. But I'm an artist, so we've got to paint these things. I'm going to get, let me have a look. I'm just going to pick up a short flat. This is a number 1, I think. I'm going to moisten my brush a little bit, just to get a little bit of moisture in those bristles, as you know, because if you've painted with me before, you know the paint has got a tendency to suck up that moisture out of the paint. Now I'm getting my little, one of my little wax jacket packet things. My tongue is getting tired on my teeth today. I've got one of these little wax paper things. I'm going to put a little bit of gesso into that. That's a homemade white gesso. I don't buy gesso these days. I certainly do not. I'm going to pick up myself a little palette knife. I'm picking up, this is a little bit of Hooker's green, as you can see. I'm going to put my standard black and white on the palette in one moment. We're not too worried about that. And I'm just going to mix that green very, very quickly into my gesso. And as you can see, it goes a really nice emerald type of colour. Now gesso has got calcium carbonate or chalk in it, so it allows us to put a ground on the canvas, but it gives us a tooth. Yes, it's so because it's not smooth. Acrylic paint is smooth, as you know. Okay, I'm just going to very, very quickly put that on. Now the only moisture I got is what I got in my brush. As you know, I went over. I'm just going to go around that outline today. I don't want to disturb too much of that. There you go. I'm just going to put that very lightly on. Yeah, so it's just I just got a wet brush now, so that's all the moisture I'm using. I'm not dipping in and out the paint. I'm not doing that. I am going to go around the line work today. Just thought I'd do something different. There we go. Not too worried about the sketch of those. I think she's carrying a bunch of flowers. I'm not too sure. We're going to work on that one in a minute. It's a nice greeny type of background. I like green. I can't see green very well, and Jason laughed at me the other week when we were doing this collaboration, and I said I can't define greens very well, Jason, I said, and because I'm colourblind. But what I mean by colourblind in green is that if I had several different values on there, then I wouldn't be able to define one from another really well. But I know what a green looks like. I hope I do anyway. I hope this is green. Might be purple, all I know. Anyway, so just put a ground on like that. That's all we need to do. Is just blank off that canvas. This canvas has been previously painted upon, that's why it was grey. And I put a coat of gesso on there. As you know, I reuse my canvases where I can. So there you are. It's as easy as that. That was the first bit. And I'm not going to do anything with that because it's already been gessoed. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm just going to get my faithful hairdryer on that and dry that off as quick as I can. Just going to allow that to dry a little bit now. Let it cool down a little bit. Okay, so we need to put some black and white on our canvas, don't we? On our canvas? No, we don't need it on the canvas, Clive. We need it on the palette. Let's put a little bit of white. And this is titanium white. And you can buy it in tubs or you can buy it in tubes. So we don't want a lot of that. And we've got a little bit of Mars black. I like Mars black, as you know, if you've painted with me before, because it's got a bit of blue in it. And it's quite universal. And I like that black. But you can use any black you want. You can, yes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just dry this brush now. And I get some Hooker's green. And I'm going to thin that down. And I use a medium mix. This has my own recipe actually. I use a medium mix because it's got all different things in it. It just stops the paint from underbinding. If you just use water, as you know, it tends to underbind, and that's not what we want. And I've got to reiterate these things on some lessons because this might be the first lesson you've seen as a beginner. And although I've got over 400 lessons now, but I do go over the same type of points quite frequently because of that reason alone. So I'm pulling down from the top, and if that runs a little bit, I don't mind. Let's get a couple of drips running down. There you go. Just thin that paint a bit more and get that. There you are. Just encourage them. It's not a drip painting, but I thought, yes, let's have a bit of fun. Let's just let that run like that, or you can get above it and just encourage it to run down a bit. There you go. Phew. Don't know if I like that. Didn't like that. So we will. Well, you could see what I was trying to do there, but I personally I didn't like that. It didn't look right. Maybe I could put more drips on, but I haven't. You can get an additive that makes your paint run like that, but I don't know. I didn't like that. So if you don't like something, get rid of it. Yeah, it wasn't the effect I was looking for. Wasn't the effect I was looking for. There we are. Let's get a bit of titanium white again. I want to thin that down using the same brush, and I want to come up on the bottom. That's nice. I like that. Yeah, you've got to play sometimes. Sometimes you've got to do things that you're not comfortable with, and sometimes you've got to play with the paint. That's it. That's the key. And if you make a mistake, it doesn't matter. You can always paint over it. Yeah. So you just got to play with the paint. I quite like that. And again, I'm gonna. Where's my bin? There it is. I'm just going to dry that off with a hairdryer. Now, I've been asked a question about the hairdryer, and I shall answer you here. Is it going to be hot or cold? Well, mine's always set on warm. I wouldn't say it was hot, and I wouldn't say it was cold. It might be just warm. And it doesn't really matter. A warmer air dries it quicker, that's all. Okay, and your acrylic paint will dry darker. If you want to have a look at this, and you will see it actually changing colour as I Try it, yes. I always check with the back of my finger, not like that, because if you do that you can leave grease spots, and you don't want to do that because acrylic paint doesn't like grease. Okay, now I'm going to just very quickly, I'm just strengthening up my pencil work, because I don't want to lose what I've got there. I can play around with that a bit more. In fact, I think I'll just get a detail brush, go into a little bit of medium mix, a little bit of black. I just want to just strengthen up my line work. You could have done this beforehand, it wouldn't have mattered, but I got to try and show different ways of doing things. But if you find that you're going to lose your pencil work or your sketch or your drawing or whatever, then you can do it this way. Just use a very thin wash of colour just to strengthen up a little bit of line work like that, and that all helps in the grand scheme of things. It certainly does. There we go. Now, as I wait for that to dry, I am going to get myself some zinc mixing white. Zinc mixing white. There we go. Zinc mixing white. That is the one you want. Okay. It's less opaque than titanium white, and it's not so strong, in other words. I haven't got much strength to it. And when you thin it with water, it makes a lovely, lovely wash. Now, a wash is basically a very thin paint. Very thin paint. Now, I make my washes using my medium mix, because I know that does not underbind my paint, so I can thin this down as much as I want. And if you're just using water, then just use water. The rule is 45%. Any more than that, any more water than that to paint, and it starts to underbind or loosen or stop the molecules from binding together. And I got to keep reiterating this, just making sure that is dry. I'm just going to run your hairdryer over that. But if that's all you've got is water, then use water. Enjoy the painting. It's about the painting, really, and it's not about anything else, is it? Or brushes or anything. Just enjoy the painting. Okay, we've got a nice background on that. I'm picking up my wash. Now, this is called a scrumble. Okay, what you're basically doing is muting down what you've already put down on there. And you can see, or you should see, this is my favourite way of playing with acrylics, is I love washes. And if you can get and master what a wash is, then you will have years and years and hours of absolute fun and enjoyment through this. Now, leave a couple of darker spots showing through. We don't want to kill all those dark spots, we want a nice and light type of effect down at this area. So I'm just constantly mixing my paint. You'll get to know how thin and how much fluid you need to put into this paint to get the effects you want. If you want a stronger look or a stronger, whiter feel to it, you just add a little bit more paint. Look, see, and you can put flecks in like that, and they will just pick up, and they will dry a little bit more opaque. So the more paint you put in, the more opaque it's going to be. And if you can drag in a little bit of titanium white on your brush if you wanted to, just to make a few areas a little bit more opaque. If you wanted a couple of areas that are really bright, then just put a touch of titanium white on your brush like that, and that gives you a really nice background, I think, to set up the subject. Okay, I'm going to dry that off again. If I had to wait for this to dry, I'd be here for hours and hours and hours. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get myself a little filbert. There we go. And I'm just picking up a little bit of titanium white. I'm going to add the smallest amount of red. Look, smallest amount of red. Just let the camera focus. Smallest amount of red on my brush. I'm going to make a little bit of pink. Look how strong that was. Look how strong that was. There we are. Look how strong that was. Run my brush now through a little bit of that green. I just want to colour, take that back, dechromatize that pink, and I'm just going to put that in very, very quickly, very, very lightly. Get a little bit of flesh colour. I know it looks light, and we can play around with that in a minute. This is just a block out. There we go. Just a block out. You can do marvellous things with acrylic paint. It's such a universal paint, and I want to do a watercolour, because you can do watercolours with these. I want to do a watercolour painting, and I am actually working on that at the moment. Got to feel the properties are slightly different to normal watercolours, so we've got to adapt the way we use them, but you can get the same effects, and you can get the same effects as oils, which I have proved with the Bob Ross tribute videos. And if you don't know what I'm on about, because it's the first time you've watched or first time you painted with me, if you want to click on the icons there they are, yes, if you want to click up there, I'll put the Bob Ross playlist in there for you. I'm just going to show you how to use all wonderful, fantastic mediums that I've developed and changed about a bit, and I've been working really hard to get acrylics to work the way I want them to, and especially like oils, and so please go and check that out. Anyway, it's enough of waffle. Let's just get this bit of colour in. There we are. Very, very lightly, very, very lightly. There we go. I'm washing our brush. Now I'm just going to pick up, I don't know, any old short flat. This is a half, and I'm going to pick up some green. There we go. I'm going to put a bit of white to it, and let's lighten that value. Let's get some light colours in there, and I want a bit lighter than that because I need to make it show up from the background. There we are. There we go. Better. Let's put a couple of things in that, and let's put a couple there like that. Let's darken that up. Just get a touch of black now, and grey that green a bit more. You need to grey that green. Maybe that's too much. And note to self, when filming, turn your phone off. Oh dear me, I normally put my phone on silent. Anyway, what was I saying? Okay, so I've mixed up a little bit of that green, and let's put a couple of darker bits here and there, like that. Put the darker bits over the lighter bits if you can, because it'll show us up more. Because if you put dark bits on dark bits, it won't show up. If that makes any sense. Okay, now I have got a little brush here. You are. This is one of my little brushes that are available on the website. There you go. And this is what I use for foliage. This is a little foliage brush, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of white. But there, I'm going to pick up a bit of yellow to it. I'm going to make a very, very light yellowy type of colour, and I'm going to put in a few things like that. Very, very, very easy, very, very quick, very, very quick like that. Let's put a couple. I don't know what these are. It could be anything, couldn't it? But it doesn't matter. Let's just make up some colour. There you go. Wiping that brush off. Okay, let's get a little bit of red to that. Let's make a pink. Using the same colour, it doesn't matter. Using the same brush, because this is going to be stronger than that. So it's going to take over the colour that's on the brush anyway. And then just put a few things in like that. Don't forget, this is going to dry a lot darker. Just a little bit of colour. Little bit of colour. Now, I'm going to pick up a little filbert, and I'm going to go straight into some plain white. There. And actually, let's put a bit of plain white by there. And let's get a bit of yellow ochre there. That's nice. And let this just all marbly. Don't worry about mixing it too much, and don't worry about wiping the brush this time, because you want this brush to be nice and thick. Look, see? Watch my shirt, Tina. Tina's the one that makes my shirts. Thank you, Tina. Okay, and then we put a couple of little marks in like this. There we are. And then pick up a bit more and maybe just dab in the brush on the side like that. Just make some patterns. There you go. Okay, wipe that brush. Get some red. Go straight into some cadmium red. Straight into cadmium red. And let's just put some roses or whatever they are. There we are. Put a couple up there. Green and red are really good. If you look at your colour wheel, you'll see the green and red. There we go. That's better. You'll see a green and red complements. So by using green and red in the painting, it's going to sit really nice. So put a few bits of red in like that. Wow, now it's starting to look like something. And let's get some yellow. Again, I'd wipe my brush. It doesn't matter if this yellow goes a little bit on the orange side, but I just want a multitude of colours just to represent maybe some flowers. There's maybe a bit too much paint on there. There we are. That's nice. I like that. I do like that. And I'm just going to get my detail brush now. I'm going to go through a little bit of black. And I'm just going to go very, very lightly. Don't want much of this. I just put a few things in like that. There you go. There's a couple of little marks here and there, and there and here. Let's get some nice dark green, and I'm picking up it really nice and thick now, straight. Look, I'm not even going to wipe my brush. I'm leaving that all nice and clumpy bumpy. And now I'm just going to put some darker bits on top of the lighter bits, but I'm leaving a bit of paint showing through. There you go. Because rose leaves are very dark, they really are, but it doesn't matter how many of what we got here, because it's all basically looking like a big bunch of flowers. I think I'm going to pick up my little in fact, let's just use this one. Here we are. I'm going to do this one now, and let's see what we can do. Let's mix a little bit of yellow with that. Let's mix a bit of yellow ochre with that, and let's get a different look on this. Just put a few lighter bits and pieces in there, maybe a little bit of white on your brush. What happens if we do that? We get a couple of little sparkly bits. Look, there you go. Put a couple of sparkly bits in there, and then put a couple of sparkly bits this side like that. I don't know what they are. It could be anything, couldn't they? It Doesn't matter, does it? All we're going to do, what we're doing is building a bunch of flowers. Yes, she's carrying a bunch of flowers. Okay, no, I got them all. My brushes are really dirty in my pot. Where's my bin? There it is. Okay, just wipe that very, very quickly. I'm going to go into a bit of yellow ochre. I'm going to run a bit of green through that. There you go. Just want to darken that off a touch. And I'm going to put that in there like that. Okay. Same brush. I'm just wipe my brush clean. I'm picking up some black on the tip of that filbert, and now I'm just going to make little marks like that. Now I'm going to go down I think a nice black dress is going to be so cool. A sharp edge. There was a bird or something on the roof of my studio then. Or I don't know if it's my cat. I think my cat's upstairs in bed. Old Boo, she was out last night and she was catching mice and one thing and another. So I think she's really tired tonight, today. Don't know what it is. Is it day or night? I don't know. I don't know. It was a day or night sometimes. I just sit in the studio and paint and we have a bit of fun. That's all it's about, is having fun. Leave a little bit of canvas showing through. There you go. Leave a little bit of canvas showing through. I'll show you a trick with that in 1 minute. And just put the black in. Like that. Nice. Okay. I think what we can do now is get a bit of black into that colour that we did over the hair, and then just make it look as if we got some hair in there then. Just make little lines. She could be like a strawberry blonde, couldn't she? She could. I don't know. What's a strawberry blonde look like? Let's put a bit of white to that. Doesn't really matter what colour this hair is. I'm just going to put some white with that now and change that flavour. I've just lightened it so we can put some maybe highlights in. I don't know. How's that look? How's that looking on camera? Looks pretty good, I think. I don't know. Let's give her a little bit of a thing like this. She's got something holding her hair up. Let's put a bit of shadow behind her ear. There you are, like that. And let's do this body once more. So where's our pink? There's our pink. Let's get some more white to it. And that was, no, sorry, that's the flesh colour. That was the flesh colour, wasn't it? It was. Let's add a little bit of yellow ochre to that. There we go. Bit of white. Let's put a little bit of Yeah, like that. Like I did when I painted the nude painting, just be loose. This is not about really worrying about real flesh tones and things like that. This is more about, let's get a bit of pink. This is more about just getting it to look like what you want it to look like, which is, in this case, is a lady. Okay, nice bunch of flowers. Maybe she's going to a wedding or something. I don't know. She's going to a wedding? Who knows? Who knows? Get that nice subtly looking colour. Let's just darken that up a touch. Let's go in there. Put a bit of a shadow in there like that. There we go. Just a touch of black. That's better. Better. Touch of black. Touch of black. Let's get a bit of shadow in there like that. Looks like she's got a strapless bra on, doesn't it? It does. How does that look? That looks okay. There we go. And what we could do is get some of that green in with my detail brush. Where is my detail brush? That's the colour we wanted for the hair, wasn't it? That's right. Okay, so let's get a bit of that and let's just add a bit of black to it. There we go. And then, what are they? These are the stalks that she's carrying. Because she's carrying this big bunch of flowers, isn't she? So we need to give her some stalks. There we go. Okay, get a little, let me have a look. Let's put a bit of colour to this dress. Should we put a bit of colour into this dress? What can we put on that dress to make it look? Let's get a bit of white. Let's make a grey. There we are. In fact, I don't think I'm going to bother with that. I'm just going to let the canvas do its job. Sometimes we don't need to cover up all canvas. Sometimes we need just to let the canvas do what it's supposed to do and not show us its lovely, brilliant texture. So let's just darken up and sharpen up a couple of areas like that. That's all we need to do, I think. Let that bit just do its job. There you go. And we could get your detail brush and picking up a little bit of white. And let's give her a couple of, I don't know, whatever they are, maybe pearls, I don't know. Doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter. There you go. But a little bit of, I'm going to have a lot of brushes to clean today, Clive. Going through all my brushes. Let's just put a little bit of light. Oops. I don't know where that black came from. Doesn't matter. Let's push it in. There we go. Hello. Okay. Get a bit of lighter colour. Let's just put a bit of. Just using a little bit of coloured white. Don't use just plain white for highlights. That's something I was reminded about recently and I forgot to mention it, so I'm mentioning it now. Don't use just white because it's quite strong. There we are. And all remains me to do today is if I can find my little filby brush. Where's my filbert? Oh no, detail brush I want. And I'm just going to sign the bottom corner in a normal way. And all remains me today is to say thank you very much for taking up my invitation and joining me in the studio. Please like, comment and subscribe, and please try this painting. I think you're going to have a bit of fun. So until the next time, all the best. Have a good day, good week, a good month, a good year, because I don't know when you're going to be watching this. May God go with you, and I will see you on the next lesson. No worries. Bye. Hello, Anne. Thank you for taking up my invitation to join me in the studio. Yes. Hello, Anne. Thank you for joining me and taking up my invitation to join me in the...
Hey, welcome, thanks for...
What's the matter? Oh, it passed?
I didn't think it would have failed on was I did the show.
Never.
And there's a massive oil leak on it somewhere.
Right.
So we bumped it into Bell now tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's up, and he's going to do a... Told he was going to do a compression test on it, you see.
But I told you to do a compression test on it.
Yeah, but Tony, we've done a compression test for Tony now. He said we don't want to put the oil inside either of these now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's right, that's right. All right then.
It's done a job, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's a good thing, Mark.
So, you know, I was going to take it out, but there is a massive oil leak on you.
That,
If there is a boat reason or something, I'd rather they go to a garage so they can, you know, they can do it by ear, can't they?
that's right, that's right. So as long as it's passed and it's worth doing whatever needs doing to it now, then that's cool.
I know the boat, they go baggage, they go through it.
Yeah. That's brilliant. All right then. Excellent, Mark. Good. All right. All right then, love. I'll talk to you later. That's brilliant. That is. Okay. I said that's brilliant. That is. All right. Love you. Bye.